Hello, welcome to the patch 7.37b offlane tier list. Let's get into it. What are the good offlaners in Dota? Well, let's look at the shit ones first. Starting with my boy, Tidehunter, the Watermelon. I will just say that this hero is an aura buyer. This entire tier list is going to be defined by buying auras or being able to kill through auras. However, Tidehunter still has a very long cooldown ultimate ability, and he's very hard countered by all of the S tier carries in lane. Slark is amazing, Ursa's good, Razor is good, Monkey King is amazing. It feels very bad to be a Tidehunter, and he is not unkillable by any means, and that is always when he is at his strongest, is when he can just stand in front of a tower and be unkillable. It does not work like that right now. Magnus, reverse polarity, is the single most facet in Dota. It's hilarious. It's very bad. The other facet just gives you RP, which he had before the facets patch. Now the skewering through trees thing gives him extra damage, but in reality, you just want to skewer people back as far as possible. So changing it from skewer damage based on the distance to skewering through trees really just nerfed the hero, and the skewering people back as far as possible. It feels like right now the way that you can do that is with a Blink Aghanim Scepter, but then you're not building auras and you're lacking that aura building offlaner. You're waiting for a very long time to get that. It feels very bad to play Magnus currently, and the universal hero thing on him does not work that well. Necrophos. So the hero was very good at the start of the facets patch. In particular, the fact that Sadist was added to the base hero, the fact that you would get extended AoE based on killing things with your facet. That was very good, but they nerfed that. It's 40 range instead of 50 on that facet. They nerfed Radiance, Aura Radius, which nerfed all of the Radiance buyers, like Lifestealer fell off a decent amount after that with some other nerfs to him. They nerfed Sadist, the amount of regen that you get from that. They pretty much over-nerfed this hero into the ground, and then also everybody's building Nullifier already right now because there's tons of barriers that are being picked, like Tinker support is completely cancer, so that's in every game. People are already going to want a Nullifier for that, then they nullify a Necrophos, and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do? He's bad. He's not good. Winter Wyvern, we're getting into the D tier, by the way. Winter Wyvern, I think this is more of a mid. I do think that the attack range to damage facet is pretty good. The whole Mage Slayer hitting people from really far away with Orchid thing, it's fine. If you're like a really good Wyvern player, it's a good enough hero. You can play it in the offlane, but I think that if you pick this hero in the offlane right now, you're going to be lacking a lot of what you want out of a typical offlaner. Kunkka, this one's interesting because I thought that at the start of the 7.37 patch, when they made his innate, the damage reduction when he loses a certain percentage of HP, and then also they changed his Ags and they gave it 2 boats with some cannons off the side. I thought this hero was going to be a very good offlaner, but then I saw Collapse trying it. He has like 8 games with it this week and a very low win rate, something like 20 or 30%. He stopped picking it. There are other heroes he's playing that he has an 80% win rate with. So clearly people have tested it that are much better than I am. It's not going that well. I see it in games. It doesn't seem that great, but maybe it's like a mid laner. DK, similar vibes where I think that the Red Dragon facet is now the one that people are going for. There is a carry DK build right now where people are going Armlet and then just running around with the Red Dragon form or without the Red Dragon form and maxing the passive, cleaving camps. It's very good. He gets very farmed, not an offlaner. Before, you could kind of get away with being an offlaner, even though he doesn't buy auras. He's like a Blink Initiator because you had some utility with the Green Dragon, but now that that's not the dragon form people are going for because it's been nerfed, he has definitely fallen off. And also, the same heroes that counter Tidehunter counter DK, the Slarks, the Ursas of the world, they will destroy you in lane. Broodmother, probably a mid and a carry. Even in terms of carry Broodmother, they nerfed Bloodthorn and now does half damage on the spiders. That's extremely bad for her. That was how she had an early tempo. You get a Bloodthorn and like be able to full to 0 anyone. It's still good, but it's half as good, which is a crazy nerf. The Necrotic Webs, you can no longer put them in other lanes and get that healing reduction. So it's pretty bad, but the hero was so good before that she falls to D tier. Omni Knight, like I said, we exist in a barriers and save guys on your team patch. It's very boring. It's just all about anti-gaming and not playing the game and waiting around. I hope they change it, but it is what it is. Omni Knight is very good at that, but you want to do it from probably a 5 position. They also changed Repel so that it's essentially just BKB. This is very good for the hero, not an offlaner. Venomancer, also a 5. I think all of the things that he can do as an offlaner are things that he can do as a 4 or a 5. I actually think Veno Jungle coming out with like Guardian Greaves Cloak super early or like a mech and you're running at the offlane tower is quite good if you can get an offlaner that can manage to survive. But you're going to do that. Like he's good at killing creeps. He was a good offlaner for the brief window where his new innate that lets you deal more damage based on the amount of debuffs that you have on people. That was very good. People were going like Orb of Corrosion, Blightstone. Shiva's was giving you like, it was counting as 3 debuffs because of the 3 different effects. They nerfed that. That's no longer really a thing. Support Veno is where it's at, not offlane Veno. Dawnbreaker, I think there's a couple of things with her. Number one, the revealing everything on the map thing is like it's cool in theory, but it's one of those things that turned out to like in practice just not be that useful. Like one in every few games, maybe one time, because it's every 10 minutes. It's like it's useful in a meaningful way. Whereas these other heroes have like crazy built-ins or crazy facets that are like super impactful. And then another thing with Dawnbreaker, a big reason that she's a strong core, especially in a side lane, is usually because her level 1 or her level 2 timing is really strong with her W and her Q. That's not really the case anymore relative to other heroes, because other heroes got facets, other heroes got innates. So they're starting, or like you have Ogre who gets level 2 and he's level 3 with the facet that he has. There's a lot of heroes in Dota that you can be laning against where her level 2 power spike is not really particularly interesting or good compared to theirs anymore. So that hurts her. Bristleback, I like that they added a 3rd facet for him, because the 2 before are just negatively impacting his ultimate. So now you get something that doesn't just like over his ult, but then you're also over your vision to like do more damage, which is really funny, but probably more of a carry. This hero has a good win rate. It's like 53%. It's decent. The pick rate's not that good, but it's more of a carry. So I would say this hero is kind of in the situation where if you have some idiot pick carry Underlord and then you realize like, I'm gonna have to carry from the offlane and you're a really good Bristleback player, go ahead, pick this in the offlane. But it doesn't really fit in every single draft. It doesn't fit in most drafts. Slardar, he was really, really strong for a period where everybody was picking Veno support and some other like slowing heroes in Dota, Viper, stuff like that. And people were going for the facet where you wouldn't be able to slow him when he's sprinting. Because of that, they nerfed sprint, and now it feels like you need to max all of your abilities, which obviously is impossible. That feels pretty bad. Also, Lifestealer's falling off. Juggernaut is not very good. Sven is still good, and Slardar's still good against Sven, but people are running it a lot less as a carry and more as a 5. So Slardar's like laning prowess is not that sick. And then on top of that, he's not a natural aura buyer. You want to play in a patch where offlaners are pretty much carries, and it's just not that patch right now, unless you're an unkillable tank. Pudge, he's in a weird space right now. I'm not entirely sure what his best role is. Probably not carry because of the nerfs to Flesh Sheep. The duration of it being reduced is pretty impactful because it's kind of easy to kill him now. The triple and double bracer thing that people are doing on the offlane doesn't help Pudge as much as like the patch where Shiva's Guard Rush was the thing, because he really liked building the aura item. So the build on him is a little iffy, a little weird. I do think the strength facet is underrated, and that one's pretty good. The Flayer's Hook is also okay, but he's just okay. He's just fine on like pretty much every role, but you have to be a very good Pudge. Nature's Prophet, I realize I've said this for pretty much all of these heroes, but it is what it is. Nature's Prophet is going to do the same thing, whether he's a 4, a 5, a 3. So you should probably just put him as a 5. He's going to split push. He's going to build Solar Crest. It's good. You're going to be really annoying. You're going to buff your carry. All of this is really good. His laning is good, but I don't see why you shouldn't just do it as a support and then get an offlaner that's going to have a higher impact. I will say, if you play this hero, I will recommend putting a ward in your triangle, putting a ward in their triangle, putting a ward showing where the creeps spawn in front of their base. Like, you want wards that are going to let your ult hit it. Load of creeps. That is definitely the meta, and it's definitely more important if you're a core to do that, because then you're going to get a lot more farm, you're going to push a lot more creep waves and have more impact that way. Okay, moving on to the C tier. Not that many heroes here. The offlane tier list is quite interesting right now because I think these heroes are all situational. They're interesting. Anyway, let's get into it. So Medusa, 33, has been playing this. He plays it when he has something like a puck mid, you know, a hero that is going to be doing the initiating because Medusa will not do it. A carry that rotates, like he'll play with a puck and a gyro. So he'll play with other active heroes because Medusa kind of just sits in a lane until you get to an Aghanim Scepter, until you get to like Blink Dagger, especially if you can get Safety Bubble, because then the Safety Bubble never procs. And so therefore you can always blink. It's insane. But basically the build is you are maxing your W, you're maxing your E, the new spell. And then you're going ATO, so you can set up your new spell. and then Aghanim Scepter, and then you're playing this like late game Octarine Core, stunning, really annoying hero. I actually think it's very good if you can set up the draft for it. The only reason that she's in the C tier is because, of course, she's a sea creature. No, it's because the draft has to be set up for it, and in pubs, obviously, that's quite impractical. Doom, I think the new facet is a meme. It's not good. It doesn't extend Doom duration by that much. The facet that is good is the one where you are selling things for a percentage of the price. However, this hero needs a lot of levels. However, the timings that you can abuse with being able to sell like a pipe and then buy a blink dagger and then, blink in, kill somebody, sell it, buy a Midas, like those timings are things that you're going to abuse in a competitive game where your team is going to help you. Every kill requires help on Doom now until the very late game. And so being able to sell your stuff for like even full price in a pub is not as useful as it is in competitive. I think competitively, this hero is like very high tier if you're a Doom player. Viper. So they added the innate to him, which he used to have, I think, on his Q, where the lower HP somebody is, actually, I think it was a passive for him. The lower HP somebody is, the more damage he does. It's good. It's very good. It worked on Mantos at the start of the patch, so it was extremely good. Now it's just good. And he's a decent aura buyer. It's this, you're going to do this weird hybrid thing where maybe like Greaves, Dragonlance, or Dragonlance mech into Greaves, maybe Pipe, maybe Eternal Shroud if you want to be an unkillable tank. Who knows? It exists in a weird space, but it's definitely fine, and it does well against a lot of the carries, I think. Vengeful Spirit, kind of falling off a little bit. She was S tier for a while, but they nerfed the stun duration on her. People are 5-manning a lot more. You really want to farm to your Aghanim Scepter, which a lot of the 5-manning stuff that's happening is not letting you do that. She's pretty okay. She's decent at 5-manning because she can save people. She puts a bubble on people. That's generally good right now. But you're saving one guy. You have to play the fight right. And like I said, it feels a lot better when you have the Ags, which a lot of the time you don't have time to farm. Night Stalker, he's in a weird position where, like, when the enemy team gets all the auras, you go on even a support and you cannot kill them. And that's all this hero does, is kill the Crystal Maidens and the Oracles of the world. So the auras don't help him, and he doesn't build auras himself either. However, he really likes killing the CMs and the Oracles of the world, and they are being picked. So it's this weird thing where you have this really strong early timing when they aren't able to just group up and press auras on the CM, and you can kill her over and over, and you can kind of snowball from that. But if you fall behind, the hero feels like complete. And that can happen and feel very bad. Pangolier, they've just nerfed this hero way too much. Rolling Thunder, damage is low. The stun duration is low. It's still extremely good, but I think he needs levels. Still a good mid. Still a decent offlane. Go to Aura Buyer. The shield is very good to become an unkillable tank on a hero that probably shouldn't be able to do that in the first place. So it's still good. It was really broken before. It was like an S tier offlaner, but with all the nerfs, it is definitely falling off. And Bloodseeker carry is back. People are going for a Aghanim Scepter build. So it is, you can thank BSJ for that one. And that's obviously very good against Pango. Okay, moving on to the B tier. Once again, some interesting ones in here and some not so interesting ones. So we have Brewmaster. This is pretty much the same hero that he was on the previous patch. People are sometimes going Radiance, other times they're going Pipe, Crimson Guard, playing as an unkillable tank, and then once you get low, playing around with like the status resist or like the wind buff, so you can't be killed, you pop your ult, and then you're devastating team fights in 5-man. It's still extremely good. The barrel is decent. Some people are going for that facet. I've seen more people going for the one where you can activate your aura or drunken brawl, whatever the hell it is, but you do the thing where you're like staggering, you're moving very quickly. They just buffed that. The win rate on that is actually pretty decent. But the heroes that counter Brew and Lane are very strong. It's the ones that counter the Tide. It's the Slarks and the Ursus of the world. They're very strong, which is also why Wind Ranger, despite not building any auras, is actually decent as an offlaner right now, because I don't think there's a single lane that I can't think of a single lane against any like carry support duo right now that's really strong that will not have a Wind Ranger just like farming the lane just fine. You're going to go Gleipnir. You're going to go for a carry build. You're building a carry offlaner. This is great if you don't trust your team. This is great if you have some Chen, some other hero on your team that's going to be building the auras, then you can get away with it, which does happen. Like there's Tinker supports being picked. They're going to build the auras. So Wind Ranger can then be picked in that scenario. And then also Wind is a hero that can kill heroes through the auras, which I think makes her pretty good. But she's like a very high tier carry and very high tier mid. Lycan. I do think that the new Alpha Wolves facet is broken. I think this is low-key broken. I'm waiting for somebody to do something really cancerous with it, and then all of a sudden everybody considers it S tier. The win rate is very good, but the people that are spamming it are being so annoying with those wolves. People are rushing shard because you get the alpha wolves in lane. They're pushing towers. They're pushing waves. You get all the last hits from them. Those wolves are like unkillable. They do so much damage. It's so annoying. Death Prophet. I'm surprised the win rate on this hero is not higher. The facet that lets you have damage delay is crazy because the hero is countered by burst and you can't burst her with this. I will say she's a good aura buyer. There are better. She has no stuns as an offlaner. Her utility as an offlaner is like being tanky and dealing damage and kind of dealing damage to towers. Her ult's not as good as it once was at killing towers in Roche. She's still good. If you're a good Death Prophet, it's like an S tier Death Prophet patch, but I see that the win rate's not very good, so I would imagine it's like 47% or something. I would imagine it's because people are A, bad at the hero, and B, also going for the wrong facets on the hero. I think the damage delay one is like necessary. I also don't think enough people are building Blink. I think Blink is really required on this hero at a certain time. Like after you feel unkillable, Blink is good. Centaur, no matter how much they nerf this hero, his health, the move speed from the move speed facet, he is still getting picked, man. It's just every patch, Centaur is strong. And I think is part of the reason for that is because, well, number one, his laning is just crazy. And number two, bracers being changed to give HP, I think that was intended to be a nerf, but it's just not. Like, all of the heroes that I've listed so far are ones that enjoy building bracers and getting that HP and becoming unkillable. Centaur already with the move speed thing was going 3 bracers. Now the build on a lot of offlaners legitimately is 3 bracers. So Centaur is still very good. The Blade Mail is also a build people. It's like 3 bracers into Blade Mail. Underlord, I'm seeing people go for still the Necro facet where you drop the portal, Necros come out. It's really annoying. His global presence is really annoying. He's good at standing in front of towers. He can lane fine against the heroes that counter him, the Monkey Kings and the Ursas, because his Q is just insane for pushing waves. You can play with like a Rubik or a Hoodwink, and it's very good. And as an offlane player, you're going to see what your support is. So if you have a nuking support, this is like a pretty free pick. But this is like the ultimate aura buyer. That's why he's really, really good right now. He's just the best aura, one of the best aura buyers in the game, and his numbers are good. Timbersaw, the facet people are going for on this hero, actually it's about 50-50, I think. People are going for the second chakram. It's still good, does good damage, but other people are going for the splinters facet and using it to slow and chase people down. It's actually good. It lasts like a second and it sets up for Timber's abilities, which he's never really had a setup for his abilities before. So that's very nice for him. Not an aura buyer. I've seen the occasional pipe on him. Not so much Greaves. It's probably okay. Still Sanj and Kaya people are going for. Not much Blink Dagger Rush going on. Amar goes for Aghanim Scepter. So he just says, fuck it, I'm going to be an unkillable tank. Auras if I can just tank damage for my team. And that does work out for him a lot of the time. So I would say probably he's the guy to copy for that. Moving on to the A tier, we have Primal Beast, which there are 2 different builds people are doing on him. There is the Greaves pipe build, but most people are honestly just winning by going a shitload of bracers because he loves building bracers, and bracers now make you unkillable, and already this hero has extremely high strength gain, and you need to kill him, otherwise he'll kill you. But people are going just Blade Mail BKB. Same as usual. I would say, like, if there's a Zeus on the enemy team or Veno or something you really need to pipe against, you definitely go pipe. But you could even then go for, like, a Blade Mail into pipe. I think the Blade Mail is always the first thing you want to go on. A lot of these offlaners, actually. The facet people are still going for, even though it's boring, is the Trample move speed one. It means your map movements are a lot worse, but as an offlaner, you don't care. You're making map movements, like, through the portal. You're not going between, like, mid and other lanes. So I think that nerf to that facet doesn't hurt him that much. Razor, I actually had to be convinced on. I did not think this hero was very good at the start of the patch, but then I saw people start. Collapse actually has like an 80% win rate on this hero, going for pipe Greaves. And then there's also a Bloodstone build people are doing, Aghanim Shard, and being an unkillable tank that kind of like presents this problem. Hey, I'm going to drain your carry. People are, like I said, going for the Aghanim Shard, which is really weird, but they're like, okay, you have to deal with me, but I'm building these aura items and very hard to kill. So, and they're going for the facet that makes Eye of the Storm hit multiple units, or not Eye of the Storm, the passive hit multiple units, which they just buffed. So yeah, Razor is good. What I was doing on him was the typical old offlane Razor, which is basically just playing it like a carry. But the Mech Greaves is actually very good. He's very hard to kill. Legion Commander, probably the best offlaner at killing heroes through auras. As the game goes late, you can solo kill carries. And I think a big reason for that is obviously she does a load of damage because she gets it with duel. She's a Blade Mail, so she's going to reflect the damage that you deal. But then also Aghanim Scepter, it makes it so that you can't help the person that's being dueled. Usually, it makes it very hard to deal with Legion. There's a lot that is required. You need like a Shadow Demon to imprison or something like that. Even then, the duration is so long that they don't survive. Eon Disc, like the duration is so long, they don't survive. So yeah, Legion is very good. And people are still going for the Stonehull plate facet and getting the shield. Shields are very strong right now. Axe is blade. I think the build is phase boots, double bracer, blade mail. And then after that, I think is where it gets interesting, where he becomes very strong, which is Bloodstone. People are realizing that this is very good with the Aghanim Shard, putting all of the battle hungers on people. Even with the nerfs to his spin, people, because of the Bloodstone, are still able to play this hero in the late game, where the damage really does matter from that, especially if you pick up an Aghanim Scepter. So yeah, this hero's late game is crazy. His early game is strong. All the other offlaners got nerfed. All the other offlane builds that he didn't like to go for got nerfed. He's like the best blade mail buyer currently, other than maybe Legion. It's debatable between the two, but people are playing a lot of Axe. Mars, so his innate is very good against illusions. That's one thing. They've buffed it a lot. They have buffed both of his facets. Well, actually, I don't think they buffed the one where you can't see people in arena, but that one was broken at the start. They buffed the other facet where you're healing a lot, you're dealing a lot of damage after killing people in arena. It's pretty crazy. I was also convinced on that one, but I really think these, you can't see somebody who has an ability casted on them, is one of the most annoying, hard to deal with things in Dota. I personally don't think it should be in the game because I think it's really frustrating. And then as the player who's using it, you don't even feel the difference, but holy shit, there's a difference. It's really good. Beastmaster. I actually think this hero is S tier. It's just that with all of the nerfs to it, it's just become harder and harder and harder to play. You really have to know your damage thresholds. You have to know who you can kill with a roar. You need to know when you can actually run in and be unkillable, and if you feed like once or twice, you fall behind. You can't do what good Beastmasters will do, which is dominate the map by being this unkillable threat that's like everywhere, solo killing people. So you can fall off if you're not very good at it, and it only takes a couple of deaths, but even then, even still, it's so strong if you're good at it. Okay, moving on to the S tier. There is one interesting hero on this, well, depending on your definition of interesting. We have Sand King. So my take on this hero is that I think people are currently playing it wrong, and still the win rate of it is 53%. I think this is the best offlaner in Dota. The things that are broken about him is that, number one, people are going for pipe. I don't think that's a build you do every single game. I think ideally you play this hero with another pipe buyer, or you just say, pipe, I'm going to carry the game. People are going double bracer, even triple bracer, blink dagger into Bloodstone, and then Aghanim Scepter. And I think the people that are really valuing Aghanim Scepter and then going for all the epicenter talents and going for the Sandstorm talent and pretty much playing around being that damage dealer in the late game, this hero can 1v5 fights like no other. It does so much damage. You don't need to do anything goofy with Gleipnirs using the caustics that are coming out from the Aghanim Scepter. You don't need to do that. None of that. Just normal mid Sand King build on the offlane, and I swear to God, you will carry any game. The late game is like unbeatable. Visage, there's a few builds people are doing. People are going Greaves, and it seems fine. There's still the Vlads and Drum Boots build. Like any auras are strong right now, and those are very strong ones on Visage in particular. Aghanim Scepter is fine when it comes to like the late game. Still, Gleipnir is a very good item in general, even with the nerfs. And Visage is obviously a universal hero, so you do very well in lane with just some stats. You do very well with the Gleipnir extra damage that it gives you. And then if you go for the Solus or the attack speed sucking, whatever the that spell is called Grave Chill facet, you can steal a ton of attack speed and do a lot of damage with the Gleipnir. But what I see a lot of people doing is they go for the facet that gives you gold when you kill things with Soul Assumption. And genuinely, the hero gets like giga farm, dude. I had a Visage the other day have like 1,000 gold to start because he got 3 kills with Soul Assumption right at the start. It was very hard to deal with. We still won the lane against him, by the way, but he sucked, so it is what it is. Anyway, Darkseer. What can I say, man? Still S tier. I know I just called Underlord like the best aura buyer in the game, but I forgot about Darkseer. Like, name a patch where he didn't go Greaves Pipe. Like, every patch, he goes Greaves Pipe. Even if Greaves Pipe is bad, it's what he does. And those are the two, like, OP items right now. So it's still very good. He's the best carry buffer in the game. He gets a wall illusion and an Aghanim Scepter illusion of the enemy carry. That's still incredibly good. It's impossible to group fight against him. Ion Shell plays the game for you. You press it on waves, and it pushes them for you. You don't have to know how to play the map. You just show up to group fights. Yeah, this hero is very stupid. Laning is incredibly easy on him because he's universal, and Ion Shell has a low cast point, low mana cost, deals high damage at level 1. Okay, so Enigma, finally, this hero. Vlad's is good on him. Drum Boots is good on him. People are going Greaves. People are going Pipe, like Darkseer. People would go for these items even on patches where they're not good, because this hero has always enjoyed playing around auras, because you push towers, you're impossible to fight. because you have Black Hole, one of the strongest abilities in the game at group fighting. So people have to run at you. They run at you. You have 5-man items. What do? They do nothing. The Facet that slows movement speed and the Innate that reduces damage. These things now scale with Black Hole. I barely feel the difference when I play it. Eidolons are still crazy tanky compared to how they were before. He is still incredibly good at winning lane with Eidolons. It feels like they just don't cost mana and health because they first made it cost health and you're like, well, this sucks. But then they've reduced the health costs on it so much that you get a headdress and you basically sustain, like a headdress Bassi, and you sustain through spamming those Eidolons. You're always going to win lane. And if you're playing into some Rubik or Black Hole Cancel, you're just building Greaves and Auras anyway. You're like a summons hero and it's still very strong. So Enigma, amazing hero right now, one of the best aura builders in Dota. And that was an abrupt way to end the video, but as they say, life is abrupt.